storytelling and creativity are essential components of healing. Now, for this talk, I would like to focus on two main issues on the need for storytelling. The first thing I would like to speak about is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. As you all can see, here at the bottom, we have the physiological needs. These are the basic needs of human being for survival. Then at the top, you have the self-actualization, which includes creativity and spontaneity. Now, if you think about it, then how about this following image that comes up now? Why, if creativity is at the top, the cavemen would do their drawings some 45,000 years ago? If you just think about these 45,000 years ago cave drawings, you'll understand that this was a very, very difficult job to do. It was a job to go into the cave very deep in the mountain. It was a job to take the sacred fire in order to see things. It was a job that you couldn't do just without asking for any permission. It was a job that was somehow appreciated by your group. In fact, if we look at it, we could see that for that specific project, one should have taken the holy, sacred fire that was not so easy to maintain. And this fire had various, I would say, tasks. One was, of course, to protect them. The other was to warm the food, to warm the cave. And of course, it was very, very holy. Now, if you think about that fact, and you think how difficult times was for them, you would ask yourself, if they have to hunt every day for their food, why would they do this foolish thing and paint on these walls? Do you know how many drawings on these walls? In fact, there are over 2,000 drawings. And so, one would ask, why? Well, there are many, many assumptions. Why do people draw these images? Still today, when we look at children, when they're very fearful, we encourage them to draw images in order for them to get hold of their fears. So this could be one reason. The other reason, of course, could be that this was a process where they were preparing themselves for hunting. There are many anthropological studies that shows that for these people in tribes to prepare for this very dangerous job of hunting, they have to go through some ritual of preparation. Lastly, of course, it is kind of a group storytelling to share something that they have done and feel more empowered. But honestly, we don't really know why did they put these images on the walls. Probably we are the only animal that we know that have the sense of future. Every animal on this planet has at least two other notions. One is present. They all live in the present, otherwise they wouldn't survive. They all have past. You can imagine that everything that happens to this specific animal goes on with that animal for the rest of its life. However, none have a future. If we go back to the cave drawings, one thing I kind of dismissed. It's all to do with fear. What is that fear? The fear of the future, may it be foreseeable or unforeseeable, is known to the human being. The human species is the only entity, animal, living on this planet that knows it's finite. From a very early age, we know children at the age of 3 may ask about life and more so about death. As they grow up at the age of 9, they have a full concept of death. And so when they ask questions, they ask about themselves as well as about others. Let's go back to the cavemen. They had to reassure themselves of something they noticed. They noticed suddenly the sun disappears, suddenly the moon disappears, suddenly there is no sun altogether and it's cold and dark, especially on the northern hemisphere. And they had to explain to themselves what's going on. And so they start telling myths and stories. They start to share with each other what is going on. They develop the ability to plan. They develop the ability to transmit this knowledge from one generation to the other and develop what we call values and memory and history. And as you all know, history can be separated to two words, his story. If I may be PC, I should say his and hers story. Now, probably, and that's what we believe nowadays, we survived as a result of the fact that we could tell story. We actually conquered this planet from a much stronger animals, much faster animals, because we were able to tell stories. Stories that were to do with gossip, as well as to do with planning, as well as to do with remembering. But when we talk about remembering, shouldn't we just look at this image and remember that, in fact, we, the Jewish people, have a lot of, I would say, joint memory or communal memory that helps us through history to maintain this ability to look into the most tragic times with a glimpse of hope. One could argue that the Torah requirement to tell the story of Exodus is the Jewish tradition, clever way to help us keep a glimpse of hope in times that darkness prevail, showing us that suffer, pain, and sorrow are not an accident in life, but they are part of life as much as joy and happiness. It instructs us to see in all generations the duty of man to consider himself as if he had come forth from Egypt. This command still instilling the story of the Jewish people and has been keeping us alive for generations through traumas and moments of despair. It is our collective story which has helped us to maintain our identity and heal ourselves each time we have faced trauma. But how does trauma is connected to storytelling? And how does storytelling heal trauma? Well, let me share with you what is trauma. Trauma is basically a moment in time that for some of us happened and somehow shattered our sense of continuity. Suddenly, yesterday does not at all predict tomorrow. Trauma is a frozen story in time. We are entrapped in this story. We are frightened. We have nightmares. We have lots and lots of problems. And one of the things we have learned in the community stress prevention where I work for the last 35 years is that people who feel traumatized do not play and do not use creativity. And so they are entrapped in these horrible memories. They are full of imagination, but mostly negative ones. And so we started to look into this ability of people to transcend beyond. One of the things that we learned about is that people who have been able, in the times of trauma, to be in a bubble or in a separate space, what we call transcend, they manage to withstand the trauma, and when the trauma is over, they're okay. One very important thing is that they were able to be playful. When we compare these people to those with PTSD, with post-traumatic stress disorder, we found out that as children, those who were able to go into this tunnel, Imagine they are meeting images, imagine they are meeting figures, imagine they are in this wonderful space, were more able to play, share that they were storytellers, and share that they were using arts and drawings. Based on that, we developed a model of working with the patients through cards. And if you think back to the times of the cave, we basically asked them to look at the cards as much as the caveman was looking at the drawings. Idea is that they will use their creativity and playfulness in order to feel more strong. And so they are encouraged to use the drawings, they are encouraged to use the cards to retell the story, to edit the story, to move things and become more and more playful. And as a trauma psychologist, I would like to argue that is the reason why both Homo sapiens sapiens, and in fact the Jewish people too, has survived and thrived. Thank you very much.